The story begins with our female protagonist Momo confronting her boyfriend. Momo's boyfriend wants her to put out more, but Momo refuses him the pleasure. Momo fights her boyfriend, resulting in the two breaking up. Momo discusses this development with her friends afterward. She says she only dated the guy because he looked like Ken Takakura, a celebrity in her world. She leaves class and goes for a walk in the hallway. Momo spots several bullies picking on her classmate Akuran. Before the bullies pick on Akuran more, Momo intervenes. Momo grabs Akuran's book and starts flipping through the pages. She finds Akuran's book uninteresting and leaves class. Akuran confronts her in the hallway. He wonders if Momo's in love with the occult. Momo tells Akuran she doesn't believe in aliens or UFOs. Momo yells at Akuran and belittles him. Before Momo departs, she comforts Akuran because she argues she acted too harshly. Akuran tells Momo ghosts don't exist and Momo retracts her kind remarks. Momo tells Akuran her grandmother is a spirit medium. Akuran doesn't care and the two continue arguing. Momo and Akuran place a bet. If the other can prove their favorite belief exists, the opposing party must be their gopher. Later, Momo visits Nagi General Hospital. Akuran calls Momo on the phone. He shares details concerning the hospital's UFO lore and what aliens do to people they capture. Meanwhile, Akuran visits a tunnel known for housing spooky spirits. Momo warns Akuran about things he shouldn't do during his investigation. Moreover, Momo reveals she hasn't seen a ghost before. This angers Akuran. Momo tells Akuran that she values her grandmother a lot. Then, Momo shares details about her childhood. Momo says she had to perform a good luck ritual while walking to school. She says numerous boys teased her about her actions. Momo argues she didn't like that the boy she was in love with teased her about it. She tells Akuran that this ruined her love for her grandmother. At the same time, Momo says she doesn't love people making fun of her family. This made her view the boys teasing differently. Momo interpreted the scenario as the boy making fun of her grandmother. This strengthened Momo's love for her grandmother and the things she did for Momo. Momo tells Akuran this is why she believes in ghosts. Momo asks Akuran why he believes in aliens, but Akuran doesn't give Momo a response. After further discussion, Akuran spots an old lady in the tunnel. The old woman tells Akuran she'll let him perform erotic acts on her body if she can do the same with him. Akuran flees from the elderly woman and calls Momo. Momo tells Akuran to stop running. She reveals the elderly woman is named Turbo Granny. Momo tells Akuran he'll be cursed if Turbo Granny defeats him in a race. Then, Momo loses contact with Akuran. The remaining lights in the hospital shut off, and Momo notices a trio of men behind her. The men grab Momo, remove her clothes, and strap her to a chair. One of the men tells Momo that they're Serpoians or Serpos who come from the planet Serpo. Momo doesn't care and wants the Serpos to free her. The Serpos tell Momo their planet only consists of males, and they must use clown technology to reproduce. The Serpos tell Momo that to attain proper reproduction capabilities, he and his friends want humans bananas. The Serpos tell Momo they want to have intercourse with her. After that, they want to extract specific organs from her body for research purposes. Momo doesn't want the Serpos to steal her innocence and tries fighting back. The Serpos use their psychokinesis powers to arouse Momo. Before the Serpos perform their erotic act on Momo, Momo's phone rings. One of the Serpos investigates and Akuran pops out of the phone. He attacks the Serpo and hurls him toward the wall. Akuran tells Momo that Turbo Granny cursed him. The Serpos aren't thrilled about Akuran's intrusion. They demand Akuran to hand over his banana. Akuran defeats another Serpo, and the remaining Serpo demands Akuran to hand over his banana. Akuran tells the last Serpo he'll do it. Akuran confirms he wanted to see aliens because he argued they'd be the only ones to befriend him. Akuran was upset that aliens never visited him during his youth. He tells Serpo that Momo is the only one who is kind to him. Akuran tells Serpo not to harm Momo. The Serpo harms Okarun and says their kind only wants to mingle with female humans. While Serpo uses his powers on Momo, we enter a flashback. In it, Momo's grandmother tells Momo how to let her Kai out. Then, we return to the present. Momo's dormant psychic powers awaken. The Serpo confirms his powers are ineffective against Momo's abilities. Momo kicks the Serpo and sends it flying into the wall. She learns she and Okarun were inside the Serpo's UFO the entire time. Okarun lands on Momo and Momo learns Turbo Granny's controlling him. Momo uses her powers to free Okarun from Turbo Granny's control for a while. Turbo Granny tells Momo she possesses Okarun's banana. She says Momo and Okarun must visit her tunnel if they want the banana back. The UFO crashes through the hospital and lands on a highway. Momo and Okarun escape. They both believe in the other's superstitions now. Momo tells Okarun that she must use her powers to prevent Okarun from losing control. She tells Okarun what they need to do to get his curse removed. Okarun wants to visit the tunnel alone and take responsibility for his actions. Momo insists they stick together and Okarun hands Momo some clothes. He also recites a Ken Takakura line, much to Momo's surprise. Momo asks Okarun to tell her his name and Okarun says his name is Ken Takakura. Momo looks surprised as the UFO behind her explodes. Okarun tells Momo that Ken Takakura is his name. Momo refuses to accept that. Turbo Granny's curse takes over Okarun. Momo flings Okarun to a wall and sets some rules. She doesn't want Okarun to say his real name. Instead, Momo insists Okarun go by Okarun for the time being. Momo teases Okarun about his new name. They bicker and eventually reach Momo's home. Okarun realizes there's a large Torii gate in front of Momo's home. Momo enters first and Okarun attempts to follow her. Okarun catches on fire so Momo uses her psychic powers to toss him into a nearby pond. Momo realizes her grandmother put a barrier on the gate and apologizes to Okarun. She removes the talisman from the gate. Okarun gets up and passes through the gate. Momo and Okarun enter Momo's home. She tells Okarun to wait outside her door. Momo gets dressed and asks Okarun to show her his banana. She reminds Okarun that he's cursed because Turbo Granny stole his banana. Okarun checks and realizes Turbo Granny stole his banana. Momo wants to check for herself, but Okarun denies her the opportunity. Okarun and Momo bicker over their previous challenge. Momo says she only picked a fight with Okarun because he kept talking to her. Okarun says he didn't want to miss the chance to speak with her and make a friend. He understands he and Momo live in different worlds. Okarun feels Momo shouldn't chat with a guy like him. Okarun apologizes and tells Momo she can ignore him once this is all over. Momo confronts Okarun. She doesn't like how Okarun jumps to conclusions. Momo argues that Okarun doesn't have friends because he shoves them away. Momo heads toward Okarun and says they can discuss the occult like normal. Okarun calls Momo ugly, and the two get into an argument. Momo and Okarun hear the doorbell ring. Momo says she has 2 doorbells. One is for people while the other is for spirits. Momo realizes the evil spirit may have got in because she removed the gate's talisman. The two head outside and notice the spirit isn't around. Then, a wall forms around Momo's home. Momo and Okarun head to the gate. Suddenly, Momo and Okarun's noses bleed. Momo spots a large sumo-like spirit. The spirit rambles about broken promises and attempts to harm our protagonists. Momo and Okarun attempt to flee, but the sumo slams them against a wall. Momo and Okarun shake it off and confront the sumo. The sumo wants Okarun's banana. Momo and Okarun head to a different area. Okarun tells Momo that they're dealing with the Flatwoods monster, a specific alien. Although Momo doubts that considering her doorbell's reaction, Okarun speculates aliens and ghosts may have something in common. Okarun and Momo head to a shed. He wants to fight the Flatwoods monster. Okarun tells Momo to release Turbo Granny's physical curse and to help him keep his head in check. Momo and Okarun confront the Flatwoods monster. Before the monster attacks them, Okarun transforms, grabs Momo, and dodges the monster's assault. Okarun's new form puts him in a depressed state. However, Okarun's incredibly fast. Unfortunately, Okarun doesn't have full control of his powers yet. Before the monster harms him, Momo uses her powers to save Okarun. She examines the monster's stance and realizes he's fighting like a sumo. Momo wants to team up with Okarun and defeat the monster by sumo wrestling it. Momo and Okarun's plan goes well, but the monster sprouts more limbs. The monster grabs Momo and throws her against the wall near the gate. Momo uses her strength to prevent Okarun from losing to Turbo Granny's curse. Momo yells at the monster for cheating. The monster pummels Momo into the wall more. Okarun is concerned for Momo's health. Momo says it's okay because she's outside the gate's domain. She uses her powers to grab Okarun and puts the talisman back on the gate. The monster disappears along with the wall it set up. Momo and Okarun celebrate their victory. Suddenly, Momo faints and Turbo Granny's curse takes over Okarun. The cursed Okarun towers over Momo's body. Momo's grandmother Seiko is asking a boy several questions. Then, Seiko takes a taxi home. Eventually, Seiko notices Okarun towering over Momo. Before Okarun harms Momo, Seiko attacks him. Seiko challenges Okarun to a fight and uses a supernatural barrier and her bat to defeat him. Eventually, Momo wakes up in her room. She heads to her living room. She spots Seiko watching Bakatono on television. Seiko and Momo discuss Momo's spiritual hotspot adventure with Okarun. Momo is concerned for Okarun's safety. Seiko refuses to elaborate on Okarun's condition and still holds a small grudge against Momo. Momo bows her head and apologizes to Seiko. Seiko tells Momo to visit the main shrine. Momo rushes to the main shrine and learns Okarun's okay. Seiko tells Momo Okarun will be fine if he stays inside the main shrine. Momo updates Seiko on Okarun's situation. She tells Seiko she can use her psychic powers too. Seiko informs Momo about Turbo Granny's origins. She shares details about location-bound spirits and how they're known for being the strongest within their territories. Seiko speculates Turbo Granny fused with her tunnel's location-bound spirit. She argues Momo should abandon Okarun and not get involved with Turbo Granny. Momo refuses. Seiko suggests Momo play tag with Turbo Granny since Turbo Granny is confident in her speed. However, Seiko says Momo must lead Turbo Granny away from their city without getting caught. Seiko explains how her barriers work and says it won't be enough to truly defeat Turbo Granny. Seiko opens the main shrine and says Momo must rely on Okarun's speed in his Turbo Granny form. Okarun argues he's not capable enough. Seiko lists activities Okarun can tackle to get stronger. As for Momo, Seiko says she'll help her train. Seiko departs. Okarun apologizes to Momo for not protecting her during their fight with the Flatwoods monster. Momo understands. She tells Okarun to get some rest. Some time passes. Momo's holding off Turbo Granny's curse on Okarun. Okarun is struggling to train because he needs to use the bathroom. During Okarun's struggle, Momo explains how she's keeping Turbo Granny's curse at bay. Seiko tells Momo to close her eyes and use her senses. She argues it may make matters easier for her. Okarun interrupts their discussion and says he needs to use the bathroom badly. Eventually, Okarun uses the bathroom. Momo tries her best not to watch Okarun relieve himself. Seiko and Momo discuss Momo's powers more. She speculates Momo's powers were sealed off. Okarun interrupts. Before Momo responds, Turbo Granny appears in the bathroom. Seiko is unconscious and Turbo Granny tells Momo she can curse anyone to death as long as Okarun sees them. Turbo Granny tells Momo to head to the tunnel to challenge her. Otherwise, Turbo Granny will curse everyone around there to death. Turbo Granny departs. Okarun and Seiko snap out of their daze. Seiko holds a small ceremony later. She gives Okarun and Momo strange clothes to protect them from evil spirits. Before Momo and Okarun depart, Seiko tells Momo not to die. Momo promises to come back alive. She and Okarun hop on a train. Momo explains why they're taking the train to the tunnel. Momo vows to beat Turbo Granny senselessly for harming Seiko. Then Momo changes clothes because she wants to look her best before they confront Turbo Granny. Momo and Okarun enter Turbo Granny's tunnel. Okarun reminds Momo that they must lure Turbo Granny outside Shono City to separate her from the location-bound spirit. Momo spots a giant version of Turbo Granny blocking one of the tunnels. Okarun screams and Momo turns around. Momo spots another Turbo Granny blocking that pathway. The Turbo Granny variants get closer to our heroes. Okarun transforms into his depressed Turbo Granny form. However, Okarun changes back. Turbo Granny tells Okarun he reverted to his human state because she gave Okarun his banana back. Before Turbo Granny devours Momo and Okarun, Momo taunts Turbo Granny and challenges her to a running match. Turbo Granny reverts to her normal form and accepts Momo's challenge. Momo tells Turbo Granny they'll play tag. If Turbo Granny can catch Momo and Okarun, she'll win the game. Momo asks Turbo Granny to count to 10. Meanwhile, Momo and Okarun run away. Turbo Granny sends an army of undead hands after the two. Her hand army captures Momo. Okarun begs Turbo Granny to release Momo. Turbo Granny stops counting and tries to capture Okarun next. Okarun leaps toward Turbo Granny and bites one of her breasts. Since Okarun won't let go, and because he's wearing a specific garment, Turbo Granny possesses him. Once possessed, Turbo Granny removes Okarun's attire. Momo uses her psychic powers to torture Turbo Granny. Turbo Granny tries retaliating, but Momo squeezes her aura enough to allow Okarun to regain control of his body. Turbo Granny transforms into a small snake-like creature. The location-bound spirit appears. It's taking the form of a giant crab. Turbo Granny asks the spirit to stop Momo and Okarun. Momo and Okarun run across a highway. The spirit chases them. Okarun transforms into his depressed Turbo Granny form and Momo hops on his back. Okarun runs while Momo grabs hold of Turbo Granny. Okarun hops off the highway. He and Momo land in the city. They continue fleeing from the spirit. Momo and Okarun lead the spirit to a hot spring to weaken it. After Momo boils the spirit, she and Okarun depart. Some time passes. They're almost out of Shono City. Momo and Okarun notice a few zombie people nearby. The zombies chase them, so Momo and Okarun turn around and flee. Turbo Granny tells them she asked the spirits at Shono City's cemetery for help. Turbo Granny tells Momo and Okarun that she and her allies won't let them escape. The location-bound spirit returns and is behind the zombie spirit army. Momo asks Okarun to go full throttle one more time. Turbo Granny warns Okarun. She says Okarun will become immobile if he goes full throttle one more time. Momo hops on Okarun's back and he goes full throttle. While the two flee from the spirits, Momo uses her psychic powers to latch onto objects. Momo and Okarun land near a railway. She realizes she let go of Turbo Granny. Turbo Granny attacks the two. The location-bound spirit and zombie spirits arrive. Turbo Granny isn't happy that Momo and Okarun cheated during their tag game. Momo acknowledges Turbo Granny's skills and Turbo Granny merges with the location-bound spirit. Turbo Granny tells Momo she'll let Momo and Okarun flee from her before she devours them. Momo says it'll only take her 1 second to run. She grabs Okarun and uses her powers to land on a train. Turbo Granny lands on the train. Momo tells Turbo Granny she wanted Turbo Granny to do that. The train is heading for Kamigo City. Seiko's standing at the edge of a specific track. She put more talismans on one of the railway's gates. Meanwhile, Momo uses her psychic powers to hold Turbo Granny back. The three pass the talisman's location and Turbo Granny disappears. Later, Okarun, Seiko, and Momo visit a specific area by the tunnel. Seiko tells Momo this is where many girls perished. She argues they didn't become evil spirits out of choice. Moreover, Seiko says she and other spirit mediums hunted Turbo Granny down for a long time. She argues Turbo Granny loved appearing in places where female spirits died irrationally. Seiko predicts Turbo Granny liked consoling these spirits because they couldn't rest peacefully. Seiko, Momo, and Okarun head to Momo and Seiko's home to eat crab. After that, Okarun and Momo chat outside. Momo tells Okarun she'll see him tomorrow. Okarun heads to school and is unsure how to approach Momo. He spots Momo near the school gate and walks past her. Momo walks toward Okarun and asks him to head inside the school with her. Okarun and Momo chat at school briefly. Then, Momo and Okarun enter different classrooms. Some people pick on Okarun, but he ignores them and heads to his desk. Okarun reads history books and says he doesn't mind everyone's behavior. He's okay with it since he knows he has a friend he can speak to. Meanwhile, Momo's friends try to get her attention. Momo doesn't budge. The girls predict something happened between Momo and her ex-boyfriend again. Momo complains and says she wants to discuss aliens with Okarun. Meanwhile, Okarun draws and wants to discuss ghosts with Momo. After class ends for them, Momo visits Okarun's class. Momo asks Okarun's classmates where he's at. Okarun's classmates tell Momo to visit the cafeteria. Okarun visits Momo's classroom and asks her classmates where she is. The students there don't know. Okarun speculates she's at the cafeteria. At the same time, Momo thinks the students are lying and heads to the school store. Momo and Okarun don't find each other at either location. They decide to look in similar yet different areas, but don't reunite there. Okarun and Momo ponder at separate benches. Then, the two get up. They're both lost in thought and bump into each other. The two argue and Momo's friends see everything. Momo's friends think Momo and Okarun kissed each other. Momo and Okarun argue in front of Momo's friends. They don't want Momo's friends to think they're dating. However, this plan doesn't work. Okarun departs to the boys' restroom and realizes something is wrong when he unzips his pants. Meanwhile, Momo's friends tease Momo about her connection with Okarun. Okarun arrives at Momo's classroom and wants to talk to her. Momo tells Okarun to leave her alone. Okarun tells Momo he wants to talk to her badly. Momo's classmates cheer Okarun on. Momo tells her classmates to pipe down. She tells Okarun she doesn't want to chat with him. Okarun walks down the hallway. He thinks about what happened between him and Momo. Okarun bumps into Era. He apologizes and the two chat. Momo goes for a walk in the hallway. She spots Okarun and Era chatting. Era and her friend walk with each other. Momo eavesdrops on Era's conversation with her friend. She's not happy that Era and her friend are talking about Okarun in a bad light. Momo uses her powers to hit Era with a washtub. Era falls to the ground and Okarun wonders what happened. Momo grabs Okarun and suggests she and him head home together. As Momo and Okarun walk home together, Momo apologizes to Okarun. Okarun says it's fine and tells Momo that his balls are gone. Momo and Okarun head to Momo's home and chat with Seiko. Seiko scolds Okarun for not letting her inspect him. She asks Momo to fetch her a doll, washing bin, and water. Seiko says something is inside Okarun. Momo returns with the tools. She places a talisman on a cat doll. Momo places his feet inside a pail of water and Seiko slaps him with a fan. Momo notices something strange regarding Okarun's aura. Seiko tells Momo to pull out the aura once she hits Okarun with the fan again. Seiko hits Okarun and Momo pulls the aura out. Momo tells Seiko she lost the aura. The aura heads inside the doll, bringing it to life. The doll flees and Seiko tells Momo and Okarun to capture it. Momo closes her eyes to find the doll's aura. Once Momo finds it, she uses her powers to grab it. Once Momo grabs it, she heads to her closet, opens it, and spots the doll inside. The doll tells Momo to let it go. Seiko and Okarun arrive. Seiko tells Momo that the doll is Turbo Granny. Turbo Granny explains how she survived. Momo reminds Turbo Granny that they have an advantage over her now. Turbo Granny tells Momo and the others that if they defeat her, Okarun's balls won't return to normal. Turbo Granny orders Okarun to get a knife and kill Momo and Seiko. Okarun transforms. Momo and Turbo Granny wonder why Okarun still has Turbo Granny's powers. Seiko explains why. She says Turbo Granny tried too hard to escape Okarun's body. Seiko says Turbo Granny's powers remain inside Okarun, not her consciousness. Seiko says she's the only one who can return one's consciousness to its original body. Seiko and Turbo Granny argue with each other. Okarun returns to normal. He tells Momo that his emotions possibly triggered his transformation. Momo understands and confronts Turbo Granny. Momo knows Turbo Granny isn't all that bad since Turbo Granny was kind to the girls who perished near her tunnel. Momo tells Turbo Granny she'll return her powers once Okarun gets his balls. Turbo Granny understands. The episode ends with Turbo Granny telling Momo and Okarun that she lost Okarun's balls. Turbo Granny talks with Okarun and Momo about Okarun's gold balls. Momo's worried they won't find Okarun's gold balls. Turbo Granny speculates that someone has one of the balls. She says it's possible a yakai or spirit stole them since they're filled with a powerful life force. Turbo Granny refuses to help Momo and Okarun further. Okarun and Momo attack Turbo Granny. Then, our trio returns to Momo's home to seek Seiko's guidance. Seiko tells Momo and Okarun she'll ask her friends for intel. Meanwhile, Seiko reminds Okarun that he has Turbo Granny's powers. Okarun attends school the next morning. A male classmate confronts Okarun and asks him to introduce him to Momo. The boy tells Okarun that someone shared a rumor around school that Momo will sleep with any guy. Okarun grabs the boy and demands he tell him who shared the rumor about Momo. Okarun heads to his seat and looks through one of his magazines. Then, Okarun checks his backpack and notices Turbo Granny's inside it. Okarun heads to the hallway to chat with Turbo Granny. Turbo Granny tells Okarun that Seiko said she can roam free since she's powerless. She tries coercing Okarun to let her inside his body so she can get her powers back. Okarun refuses. He wants his balls back first. Momo arrives but doesn't spot Turbo Granny. Okarun tries telling Momo that Turbo Granny is here, but he's mesmerized by Momo's beauty. Okarun starts running and Momo chases him. Turbo Granny departs. Momo meets with her female friends. She doesn't know why Okarun is avoiding her. Momo's friend tells Momo that Okarun got into a fight because someone spread a rumor about Momo. Then, we cut away to Era. Era walks through the school's hallway. She reflects on how people react to her and how she perceives them. At the same time, Era wasn't happy about what Momo did to her. Era says she spread rumors about Momo. She argues Momo is a demon. Era says she saw Momo's demon wings. Era pulls out one of Okarun's gold balls. She says this ball confirms she was chosen to purge her world of demons. In a flashback, we learn Era was walking near the railway. The gold ball bounced off the train and landed near Era. Era notices the train pass her by. Then, Era's friends greet her in the present. They give Era a book and a cross. Era's friends are skeptical about Era's activities, but Era strongly believes she was chosen to save the world. Era notices a person in a red dress out the window. Her friends don't see anything. Some boys arrive and Era acts normal. Era signals to her friends to keep her plans a secret. Turbo Granny observes Era and her group briefly before departing. Meanwhile, Turbo Granny, Okarun, and Momo chat on the school's rooftop. Okarun and Turbo Granny tell Momo she was looking for the gold balls and saw a strange woman. Turbo Granny tells Momo and Okarun that if someone picks up the gold balls, it could awaken their spiritual powers. She says these people have the potential to see spirits too. Turbo Granny promises to introduce Momo and Okarun to the woman after school. Eventually, Era confronts Momo and Okarun. Era wants Momo to chat with her alone somewhere. Momo accepts Era's offer. She and Era head to an abandoned warehouse. Era's friends slam Momo from the ground and tie her up. Era hops on Momo's back and holds her cross toward Momo's face. Momo uses her powers to grab Era's friends. She tosses Era's friends somewhere. Era pulls out the gold ball. Momo tells Era to give her the ball. She tells Era that it belongs to Okarun. Okarun arrives and runs toward Momo and Era. He tells Momo that the strange woman is after Era. The strange woman arrives and grabs Era. We enter a flashback. In it, we see a young Era waving to her mother. The strange woman tells Era that she's her mother. Okarun transforms and fights the strange woman. The strange woman grabs and devours Okarun. Then, the strange woman tells Era she is her mother even though Era doesn't know who she is. The strange woman tells Era that Era used to call the strange woman her mother. Momo confronts the strange woman and Era wants to know if Momo knows who this woman is. Turbo Granny exits the rubble and looks through Momo's friend's phone. She tells Momo that the strange woman is named Acrobatic Silky. Era calls Silky a monster and Silky devours Era. Momo asks Turbo Granny to help her out, but Turbo Granny refuses. Silky attacks Momo with her long hair. She promises to let everyone go if Momo calls her mother. Momo refuses. Silky devours Momo. Turbo Granny confronts Silky. Turbo Granny tells Silky she devoured something specific when she ate Momo. Flames engulf Silky's body. Turbo Granny tells SLKY that when Silky devoured Era, Era had a cross in her hand. She says the cross was a lighter. Turbo Granny tells Silky Momo used Era's cross to light Silky's hair on fire. Silky spits out Era, Okarun, and Momo from her body. Momo and Okarun plan to fight Silky. We start with a flashback of acrobatic Silky running around several streets. We then return to the present timeline. Silky attacks Momo, Okarun, Era, and Turbo Granny. Our heroes dodge Silky's assault and flee. Silky chases our heroes. During the chase, Momo and Okarun split into groups. Silky chases Okarun while he's carrying Era and separates the two. While Era is unconscious, Silky tells Era she wants to devour her. Silky says Era will become her flesh and blood. Silky tries walking toward Era but can't. She unknowingly ensnared objects while chasing our heroes. Silky tries freeing herself. Momo uses his psychic abilities to hold Silky down. Okarun uses his full throttle attack to send Silky into a wall. Turbo finds the gold ball and says Era died. Momo and Okarun check on Era. Turbo says it's normal for a regular human to die if a yakai eats them. Momo tells Okarun to perform CPR on Era while she massages Era's heart. She tells Turbo to call an ambulance for Era. Silky wanders toward our heroes. She tells Momo and Okarun she wants to give Era her aura. She argues this is a better way to bring Era back to life. Silky snaps her jaw to prove that she means no harm. Momo says she'll work with Silky to save Era. She tells Okarun to prepare his full throttle attack just in case Silky tricks them. Silky tells Momo to use her powers to connect Silky's aura to Era's aura. Momo complies. We enter a flashback scene. This is set at a time when Silky was a human. Silky's sleeping somewhere and spots some yen near her bed. She leaves the area and visits an apartment. A little girl greets Silky at the front door. We can assume this is Silky's apartment and the little girl is her daughter. We receive a montage of Silky working several jobs and helping her daughter practice ballet. Eventually, Silky's daughter gets better at the craft. Silky earns enough money to buy Era's dress. We receive more moments of the two having fun together. Eventually, two men enter Silky and her daughter's home. Silky's daughter tries to stop the men. One of the men grabs Silky's daughter. Silky tries to stop them, but the man pushes her aside. The men kidnap Silky's daughter, take some money, and depart. Seconds later, Silky gets up, flees her home, and looks for the men and Silky. Then, we see Silky performing ballet while pondering her daughter's whereabouts. Silky falls. Then, we see Silky in a space enveloped in light. This version of Silky is a spirit. A younger Era grabs Silky's shirt. Era refers to Silky as her mother. Era's father tells Era to come to him. Era tells her father she thought Silky was her mother. Era's father tells Era that Era's real mother isn't around here. Then, Era's father downplays Era's real mother's death. He tells Era her mother has gone to a faraway place. Era and her father visit Era's mother. Her mother is lying dead in a casket. As Era and her father depart, Silky mistakes Era for her real daughter. Silky vows to protect Era so that no one harms her again. Era regains consciousness. Silky apologizes to Era and promises to end everything. The former's body deteriorates and Momo wonders why. Turbo says Silky's deteriorating because she lost her aura. She argues Silky will visit the void since she's dying with regrets. Before Silky perishes, Era hugs Silky and tells her she loves her. Silky vanishes, and Era promises to never forget Silky. Momo and the others are eating at Momo's home. Momo understands Era doesn't like her because Momo dropped a washtub on her head. At the same time, Momo says she doesn't want to become best buddies with Era. Nonetheless, Momo apologizes to Era and asks Era to apologize to Okarun. Era tells Momo she's after her because she thinks she's a demon. Several arguments ensue between everyone. Before Era departs, she asks Okarun why he saved her. Okarun tells Era he doesn't have a reason. However, Okarun says anyone would save someone who is in trouble. Era realizes Okarun has a human heart and promises to free Okarun from Momo's control. Era departs and develops feelings for Okarun. After that, Momo, Seiko, and Turbo Grani put Okarun's gold ball back in its proper place. Momo and Okarun head to school and chat in the hallway. Momo wants to meet after school, but Okarun says he can't. Momo understands. She has lunch with her friends in class. Momo and her friends discuss Okarun's activities. Her friends argue that Okarun may have fallen in love with another girl. Momo ponders her friends' remarks. She leaves to buy herself and one of her friends a drink. Momo notices Okarun towering over Era's body seconds later. We enter a flashback. In it, Okarun is exercising. Okarun wants to get stronger to protect Momo. Era arrives and tries to kiss Okarun. Okarun pushes Era away. Era tells Okarun that she read a book that taught her how to confess to people. Eventually, Okarun and Era end up in the position Momo found them in. Momo walks away. Okarun follows Momo and wants to resolve this misunderstanding. Momo refuses to listen to Okarun and returns to class. She can't get the thought of Okarun and Era's incident out of her head. Later in the day, we see Okarun pondering everything over at school. He hears Era scream and looks for her. Okarun finds Era and Era wonders what's happening. Meanwhile, Momo is alone in a different hallway. Momo hears something in the distance and hides. An aquatic dinosaur is in the hallway. The creature fires an energy beam from its mouth and departs. Meanwhile, Okarun tells Era that he was in a situation like this before. Okarun says everything went to normal after he and Momo defeated the creature responsible for putting them in that closed space. He also tells Era that the aliens he and Momo encountered were after human reproductive organs. Then, the two encounter an anthropomorphic shrimp with boxing gloves. Okarun transforms and saves Era. He tells Era to flee. Then, the Serpoians arrive. Okarun is left defenseless and tells Era to flee. One of the Serpoians pushes Era away with their powers. The Serpoians claim only those with high spirituality can enter the void space. The Serpoians still want humans' banana organs. They also want to experiment on Okarun because his abilities surpass their scientific technology. They also want to transplant his abilities to themselves. The Serpoians lift Okarun in the air with their powers. Era transforms and uses her powers to bind the Serpoians with her hair. Era tells the Serpoians to let go of Okarun. Okarun mistakes Era for acrobatic Silky. Then, a Serpoian tells Era he wants Era's banana organ. Okarun scurries to a classroom while Era fights a Serpoian and the boxing shrimp. During the fight, one of the Serpoians uses his psychic powers to slam Era against a wall. The Serpoian reiterates that it wants to take Era's banana organ. The boxing shrimp punches Era, sending her to the classroom. Okarun heads to Era's side and transforms. The Serpoians combine their psychokinetic abilities to trap Okarun and Era in the Awesome Zone. They tell our heroes that it's impossible to transform or stand in this zone. The Serpoians claim they can't enter the zone. They want the boxing shrimp to pummel them. Okarun transforms and escapes the Awesome Zone. The Serpoians realize Momo arrived while they were distracted and repelled their powers. Okarun and Era join Momo. Momo's surprised by Era's acrobatic Silky-like appearance. The Serpoians use this opportunity to harm Momo and use their psychokinesis powers on Era and Okarun. Then, one Serpoian heads to the boxing shrimp and injects him with something. The boxing shrimp takes on a new form and attacks Era and Okarun. Momo stands up and assists her friends. Era and Okarun fight the boxing shrimp. However, Momo, Era, and Okarun struggle to work together because of Momo's jealousy. Then, water envelops the area. Momo spots the water dinosaur she saw in episode 8. Okarun confirms the dinosaur is the Loch Ness Monster or Nessie. Momo swims away because she can't stand Okarun and Era's flirting. Meanwhile, Nessie destroys one of the Serpoians with its laser beam. At the same time, the boxing shrimp attacks Era. Okarun and Momo flee, and the former refers to the boxing shrimp as a mantision. The mantision confirms its attacks are stronger in the water. However, the mantision can't breathe underwater for too long. Okarun tries developing a battle strategy with Momo. Momo ignores the plan and rants about Okarun's incident with Era. Okarun tries to clear up the misunderstanding. After that, Momo and Okarun rescue Era and head to a new classroom. Momo helps Era regain consciousness. Momo tells Era she and her should remove their clothes to combat water resistance. Meanwhile, the mantision apologizes to the Serpoians. The mantision realizes Nessie killed another Serpoian. The remaining Serpoian tells the mantision that Nessie is strong but stupid. The Serpoian wants to use his body cable to merge with Nessie and the mantision. Momo, Okarun, and Era head into the water and spot Nessie. Nessie merged with the Serpoian and mantision. Momo says they should break Nessie's neck so it can't fire lasers anymore. Despite struggling, Momo and Okarun defeat their combined foe. Everything returns to normal. Okarun and Momo's classmates spot them hugging each other on the ground. Embarrassed, Okarun and Momo flee the area. Era joins them. Their classmates wonder why they're all naked. Okarun, Era, and Momo talk with Queen, their school's nurse. Queen wants to know if they're being bullied, but our trio tells her they're not. Then, a school staff member tells Queen she received a call from the teacher's office. Queen departs. Momo, Okarun, and Era discuss Era's powers. They discuss the Serpoians' goals and technology. Okarun predicts the aliens can't invade Earth because Earth's yokai and demons protect Earth from them. He argues the aliens are attacking special humans like them to develop technology to defeat their yokai. Momo suggests Era and Okarun tell their classmates Momo told them to strip down. Era's friends arrive and take Era with them. Alone, Momo and Okarun discuss Okarun and Era's intimate moment during lunch. Okarun tells Momo what happened. He tells her he was initially exercising to get stronger. Momo teases Okarun and things get tense between them. Momo's friends arrive and Momo explains what happened in the hallway. One of Momo's friends speculates Momo, Okarun, and Era are in a love triangle. Elsewhere, several students surround Era. Era tells them she's fine and doesn't want to elaborate on what happened in the hallway. One student brings up Momo. Everyone blames Momo for what happened to Era. Era reveals she spread a false rumor about Momo. She tells everyone not to speak badly of Momo. Era departs. Momo finds Era sitting at a table. Era tells Momo everyone dislikes her, but Momo speculates Era didn't run with her idea since Era's alone. Suddenly, the Mantisian arrives. The Mantisian wants to fight Momo and Era but falls. We enter a flashback. In it, the Mantisian sees a fellow Mantisian hugging someone named Chiquitita. We can assume this is the Mantisian's son. The Mantisian awakens and learns he's inside Seiko's home. Momo tells the Mantisian that they medically treated him and left him food to eat. The Mantisian thanks Momo and the others for their hospitality. After eating, the Mantisian tells Momo and the others that Chiquitita is ill. He argues Chiquitita requires new blood every day to survive. The Mantisian says he travels to numerous places to collect foreign currency for Chiquitita's sake. He argues it's difficult for him to find work since he's one of the weaker Mantisians. Akurun offers his banana, but the Mantisian argues he needs to find a proper job. The Mantisian thanks Akurun and the others for their help. Before he leaves, Seiko gives the Mantisian some milk and the Mantisian drinks it. He realizes the milk is the same as his species' blood. Seiko tells the Mantisian she'll have a dairy farmer lend him a cow. The Mantisian takes the cow and departs Earth. Meanwhile, Momo asks Seiko to buy her and the others school uniforms. Seiko tells Akurun and Era that she'll buy them clothes. She tells Momo to impersonate Hiroshi Abe. Momo impersonates Hiroshi, but Seiko doesn't like her impersonation. The doorbell rings and Seiko tells Momo to answer it and to continue doing the impersonation. Momo answers the door. Gigi arrives. Seiko tells Akurun that Gigi is Momo's childhood friend and first love. Akurun wonders if Gigi is as sincere as he looks. Then, Gigi acts foolishly in front of everyone. Seiko tells Momo that Gigi is going to live with them. Era believes Momo is gathering forces for a Ragnarok-like event. She leaves to gather people for her side. Akurun leaves next and tells Momo he'll see her tomorrow. Meanwhile, Momo asks Seiko why Gigi is staying at their place. Seiko says Gigi's parents are hospitalized. She wanted to do them a favor and have Gigi remain with them. Gigi and Momo perform dish duty. He tells Momo that he regrets picking on her during grade school. Gigi says he can see ghosts and shows Momo a picture of his home. He says there's a strange monster roaming his home that unsettled him. Gigi says his parents' health dwindled after he saw this creature. He says he sought help from several spirit mediums, but many perished. Gigi was told to ask Seiko for help. Seiko refuses to help since her powers only work within Kamigo City. She tells Gigi that Momo will handle his request. Seiko promises to fulfill Momo's clothing request if she helps Gigi with his. Some time passes. Momo's teacher introduces Gigi to the class and tells Gigi to sit next to Momo. Meanwhile, Akurun contemplates Gigi and Momo's possible feelings for each other in a different classroom. Akurun is concerned Momo will become disinterested in him if she dates Gigi again. He heads outside to train and Momo arrives seconds later. Momo tells Akurun she wants to prevent Akurun from doing anything funny again. Then, Gigi arrives and shows Momo a specific type of yogurt to get her attention. Before Akurun leaves, a living anatomical model rushes toward him. Akurun runs and the model pushes him aside. Momo attempts to stop the model, but Gigi saves her. She uses her psychic powers to grab the model while it's running. Akurun transforms and heads toward Momo, Gigi, and the model. Although our heroes try to catch the model escapes. Akurun returns to normal and Momo performs several hand gestures. The model screams each time she does. Momo leads Gigi and Akurun to a garbage dump. They find the model there. Momo tells her friends that she grabbed the model's heart when the model split apart during the chase sequence. Momo tries interrogating the model, but it hears a female named Hana in the distance. The model Taro looks for Hana in the dump. Taro finds Hana, and we learn she's a female anatomical model. He declares his love for Hana and tells her how much his worldview changed because of her. Okarun watches and understands where Taro is coming from. Okarun begs Seiko to let Hana stay at her residence. Seiko understands. She tells Momo and the others to prepare for dinner. Okarun spots Jiji and Momo chatting and laughing with each other. This bothers Okarun. Okarun recalls Taro's words to Hana. He tells Momo he wants to fight adamantly, but doesn't elaborate on his goal. He and Jiji act poorly. Seiko tells them to stop. She asks Momo to get her belongings together. Seiko reminds Momo that she has to stay at Jiji's place. Momo tells Okarun why she's going to Jiji's home. She asks Okarun to come along for the trip. Okarun accepts because he wants to get Jiji home immediately. Elsewhere, several students visit Momo and Okarun's school at night. Taro runs past the students and leaps out a window. He wants to see Hana tonight. Taro gets hit by a truck. Meanwhile, Momo and Hana wait outside. Taro arrives late and apologizes to Hana. Taro tells Momo that he will be on time next time. We cut away to Jiji in his room. Jiji says he can't sleep as a strange individual stares at him. Jiji, Momo, and Okarun play old maid on a subway train. Okarun wants to focus on getting his gold ball. He can't concentrate because of Momo and Jiji's closeness. Okarun brings up Tsuchinokos to gain Momo's attention. Jiji brings up his village's legendary serpent and its Tsuchinoko shrine. This gets Momo's attention. Okarun brings up mummified Kappas and says it has its shrine too. Jiji and Okarun discuss the topic more. Okarun realizes Jiji's not so bad. Jiji asks Okarun if they can be friends. Okarun doesn't give Jiji a solid answer. Momo, Jiji, and Okarun arrive at Jiji's village's hot springs district. Jiji says his father's researching volcanoes at a nearby college. He confirms this is why his family moved here. Momo, Okarun, and Jiji visit Jiji's home. Once inside, Momo, Okarun, and Jiji inspect the place. She predicts the ghosts are hiding because of their low spirit power. Momo says it's hard for her to detect them when they have low spirit power. Momo tells Okarun she's going to the hot springs. She promises she'll be back by evening. Momo asks Okarun to watch Jiji while she's away. Okarun and Jiji play soccer. Jiji asks Okarun if he loves Momo. Okarun tells Jiji he respects her. However, when Jiji says he loves Momo's face and personality, Okarun tells Jiji he loves those aspects of Momo too. Okarun and Jiji argue over this. During Okarun and Jiji's argument, Okarun tells Jiji to look somewhere. Okarun spots a new room next to Jiji's home's foyer area. Meanwhile, several men enter the same bathing area that Momo is in. The men tell Momo that this is a co-ed bath. At the same time, Jiji and Okarun inspect the wall that's hiding the secret room. Jiji plans to break the wall to see what's inside the secret room. Meanwhile, the men tell Momo that most men like to enter co-ed baths to target naked women. While one of the men pins Momo to the ground, Jiji uses a hammer to put a hole in the wall. The season ends with Jiji and Okarun looking through the hole. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.